All right, 23 minutes before 9 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this beautiful Friday morning. It's time for News Bites. This is the segment of the morning show where we take 22 minutes to today 23 minutes to bring to you the freshest news that we could possibly get our hands on and bring it to you abbreviated form so you can tune in at this time each morning and in just 20 minutes time catch up on the biggest stories affecting everybody's world every day. And we will, when we have the opportunity, or when we have the information, I should say, we will tell you where we got the stories from. The first one that I have does come from ABC News. The American consulate in the western Afghanistan city of Herat came under attack early this morning, according to a statement from the U.S. State Department. The attack began around 6 a.m. local time when militants drove to the front of the consulate's gate. Once they reached the checkpoint, the militants began attacking the consulate's perimeter security officers, possibly firing rocket-propelled grenades and assault rifles. Shortly after, the entire truck exploded, damaging the front gate of the consulate, according to State Department spokeswoman Marie Harf. Non-security staff at the consulate immediately took shelter while American and contractor security personnel fought with the militants who had breached the compound, Harf said in a statement. Some of the attackers, according to Harf, appeared to be wearing suicide bombs. Full details are not known of the extent of the attack at this point, but the attack is currently over, Harf said. No Americans were killed in the attack. The Taliban took responsibility, by the way, for the attack.
Firefighters dug a trench and tore out a section of Jersey Shore boardwalk in an effort to prevent a furious wind-whipped blaze from jumping to an area just rebuilt after Superstorm Sandy. By late evening, officials were voicing hopes that the plan was working and the fire that raged on the boardwalk in Seaside Park, New Jersey was dying down. This is a quote from John Camara, borough administrator in the neighboring boardwalk town of Seaside Heights. The threat of it moving at this point is minimal, and emergency workers did an amazing job. This was quoted by him to ABC News. New Jersey Governor Chris Christie gave his assessment of the damage. It destroyed a length of boardwalk containing perhaps 30 businesses near the same stretch of sand where a roller coaster landed upright in the ocean after Sandy hit the coastline in October 2012. By nightfall, a 6-block length of boardwalk south of Lincoln Avenue had been almost totally destroyed, but firefighters were hopeful of keeping 30 to 40 mile-per-hour wind gusts from blowing the fire further north across a trench set up at Lincoln Avenue.
And the next story was mentioned when we were speaking to Galen Unold. Florida's largest blood collection agency has suspended blood collections in Martin and St. Lucie counties along the Atlantic coast because of a spike in cases of mosquito-borne dengue fever in the region. As a result, One Blood officials say they won't collect blood in the region until further notice. The safety of the blood supply is our top priority, so we typically do monitor for any new emerging diseases that might be out there, and we have been following for the last couple of weeks the increasing cases of dengue in the Martin and St. Lucie areas. That was a quote statement from One Blood's chief medical officer, Dr. Rita Reek. 15 cases have been diagnosed in the two counties. Dengue fever is spread by mosquitoes. Symptoms include fever, headache, and severe muscle and joint soreness. Some people also get a measles-like rash. Health officials say it can be a risk to blood supplies because the viral disease is rare and tests are not done at the time of blood collection.
The story is out of Orlando. The governor's annual tourism conferences are concluding today at Universal Orlando. The gathering opened this past Wednesday with Governor Rick Scott issuing a professional challenge to the assembled members of the industry. Governor Scott called on tourism industry representatives to aim high. By aim high, Scott means shoot for a goal of a new record of 100 million visitors in a single year. Visit Florida CEO Will Sacambe is quoted as saying, "Challenge accepted. After we hit the 90 million mark, the logical next question was, what's the next big benchmark for Florida's number one industry? It's very ambitious, but it's an achievable goal and one that the Florida tourism industry and Visit Florida are excited to undertake. Visit Florida's budget has nearly doubled over the past 3 years, and Sacombe says that investment is already paying off. He says the extra funding would translate to 100 more jobs and a $6 billion bump in the state gross domestic product."
You're listening to News Bites. This is the segment of the morning where we take the news from the different news agencies we subscribe to here at WOCA The Source, and we abbreviate them. We bring them to you in summarized form so you can get the gist of the story, and we move on to the next one intentionally. If you would like to look further into the story, obviously we've got so many news resources at our disposal these days, you can look it up. If you'd like to sponsor this program, come into the station here at the Paddock Mall or call the station at 732-8000 and speak to Tish Moeller or Dan Martone or Joe Martone. They are the ones who can tell you what you need to know if you would like to have an advertising campaign on WOCA. The next story out of Frankfort, New York, the recently identified remains of a World War II airman from upstate New York and a pilot from California will be buried as a group next week at Arlington National Cemetery. The Pentagon's POW Missing Personnel Office announced yesterday that the remains of Army Air Force Second Lieutenant Valerie Pollard of Monterey, California, and Sergeant Dominic Licari of Frankfurt will be buried with full military honors in a single casket. I guess it would be next Thursday at Arlington outside of Washington. The individually identified remains of Licari were buried on August 6th in his hometown of Frankfurt near Utica. Pollard and Licari were listed as missing in action after their bomber failed to return from a mission over Papua New Guinea. In March of 1944, the mountainside crash site was excavated last year, and the remains were identified earlier this summer.
Cassidy Hooper was born with no eyes and no nose, but on September 18th, that was a big day for the North Carolina 17-year-old. She undergoes the final surgery that will give her a nose. This is a quote from her father, J. Aaron Cassidy, a 48-year-old engineer. "It's been a long process, but the day has finally come. Cassidy is certainly excited for this day to be here." Cassidy is a senior at Governor Moorhead School. Earlier this year, she is very excited for the first time that she will be able to smell and breathe through her nose. She's quoted as saying, "I'll have a real nose like everyone else's."
Wow.
Yeah, since 2007, when she was 11, Cassidy has gone through a series of skin graft and facial reconstruction surgeries at Levine Children's Hospital in Charlotte. In 3 final surgeries done over 2 to 3 weeks, doctors will stretch skin flaps over a bone or cartilage graft from another part of her body. No one knows why Cassidy was born without eyes and a nose. It's a rare birth defect that likely occurred during the first 2 weeks of gestation.
A 12-year-old Lakeland, Florida girl committed suicide after she was bullied online by more than a dozen girls. And the sheriff said yesterday that he is investigating whether he can file charges under Florida's new law that covers cyberbullying. Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd said that Rebecca Ann Sedgwick jumped to her death on Monday at an old cement business in Lakeland. Investigators say the girl was despondent after others had posted hate messages about her online. Sedgwick was, quote, absolutely terrorized on social media, Judd said. The Lakeland Ledger newspaper reports that detectives found multiple social media applications where Sedgwick was constantly bullied with messages including "Go kill yourself" and "Why are you still alive?" He said parents of all 15 girls have cooperated with detectives and several cell phones and laptops have been confiscated. Judd said charges could be filed, including cyber stalking. 12 years old.
Absolutely horrible. The state of California is set to raise its minimum wage to $10 an hour, among the highest in the U.S. Legislation is expected soon to reach Governor Jerry Brown's desk that will gradually raise the current minimum of $8 an hour 25% by 2016. The measure was opposed by some business owners who warned it would force them to reduce hiring. The federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour, although 19 states and Washington, D.C. have a higher minimum. The Democrat-controlled state Senate passed the bill on a party-line vote yesterday. The state assembly, which had already passed a separate version, will vote on the Senate's version, a procedure analysts describe as a mere formality. Governor Brown, who supports the bill, has said the minimum wage has not kept pace with rising costs in California, which is the largest state by population in the United States.
We summarize the news in this segment. We read it live, and if you'd like your advertisement read live, we can do that as well. Make sure you call the station to talk to a sales executive about advertising on WOCA or this segment right here. And just call us 732-8000. Here is another one. Russian President Vladimir Putin has written a New York Times op-ed piece, quote, to speak directly to the American people, unquote, warning that a U.S. military strike on Syria would unleash a new wave of terrorism. In the op-ed posted Wednesday on the Times website titled A Plea for Caution from Russia, Putin said there's no doubt poison gas was used in Syria, but it could have been used by opposition forces to provoke intervention from other countries. Putin slammed the United States for getting involved in the Syrian civil war, which he described as an internal conflict. Putin said force has proved ineffective and pointless, and then proceeded to list countries where the United States has used military force to intervene in conflicts. The Russian president warned that military intervention in the war-torn country could spread far beyond Syria's borders and unleash a new wave of terrorism. And I guess my 2 cents is actually Mike Huckabee's 2 cents. Mike Huckabee had a really good commentary earlier on his short piece.
A U.S. man trying to cross the Atlantic in a lifeboat suspended by some 370 multicolored helium balloons says that he has made his first stopover landing. Jonathan Trapp lifted off from the city of Caribou in the state of Maine amid heavy fog at dawn yesterday. 10 hours later, he posted on Facebook. He said that he landed safe and would spend the night at an undisclosed location. Ascending up to 25,000 feet, Mr. Trapp hopes to cover his epic 2,500-mile trip to Europe within 6 days. Mr. Trapp, an IT manager from North Carolina, has previously completed successful cluster balloon voyages across the Alps and across the English Channel. Depending on weather conditions, Mr. Trapp could touch down anywhere between northern Africa and Scandinavia.
It's in a life raft with balloons. I mean, they look like party balloons if you've seen the photo.
Wow, I got to check it out.
All right. Out of Moscow, at least 12 people are dead and more than 20 missing after a fire that gutted a psychiatric institution this morning outside of the central Russian city of Veliki Novgorod. According to officials, a criminal case has been opened into the reasons for the fire, and searches and document seizures were already underway this morning, according to a statement from Russia's investigative committee's website. 12 bodies have been recovered following the fire, including that of an orderly employed at the institution, according to a local security service source. The emergencies ministry said earlier in a statement that 23 people had been saved, while the health ministry said that a total of 59 people were in the building when the fire started. The fate of the remaining 24 people was unclear, and police say they were searching the local area for patients who could have escaped.
The Army Corps of Engineers will pay $7.2 million in tax dollars to dump an additional 600,000 cubic yards of sand on the beach at Coney Island in New York. This is according to Senator Chuck Schumer, a Democrat from New York. He announced that this morning. The federal-funded sand is ostensibly to replace sand lost from the beach during Hurricane Sandy. However, the 600,000 cubic yards that will be dumped on the beach at taxpayers' expense is more than twice what was washed away by the 2012 storm. Citing damage from Hurricane Sandy, Schumer requested the award as part of the Coney Island Reach Project. This project consists of approximately 3 miles of beachfront, which runs from West 37th Street to Brighton Beach. The contract was awarded by the Army Corps of Engineers for an emergency project critical to Coney Island beachgoers and homeowners.
Ray Dolby died yesterday in San Francisco. He was 80 years old. He suffered from Alzheimer's disease and acute leukemia. He is the pioneer in the field of sound that you know from the Dolby sound system. Dolby will be remembered as the man who took the hiss out of sound recordings with a fortune of $2.4 billion at his death. Dolby truly did make silence golden. He founded his namesake Dolby Laboratories in 1965. His work revolutionizing the immersive experience of movie theater sound started with Stanley Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange in 1971 and matured with Star Wars and Close Encounters of the Third Kind in 1977. Over the years, Dolby earned 50 patents, 2 Oscars, multiple Emmys, and a Grammy Award. He first entered the billionaire ranks in 2005 when Dolby Laboratories went public. The company's revenues last year were in excess of $900 million. Last year, it issued a special dividend to shareholders. Dolby, with more than 56 million shares, got $200 million. With his death, Dagmar, who is Dolby's wife of 47 years, assumes his fortune and place on the Forbes 400 list.
Wow. Lady Antebellum may be on hiatus, but fans are still getting a chance to see something new from the Nashville trio. Lady Antebellum will join Stevie Nicks on tonight's episode of CMT Crossroads. This is a show that matches country stars with partners from different musical genres. CMT recorded the performance last spring in Los Angeles before Lady Antebellum singer Hillary Scott gave birth to her first child this summer. The group has been on a break for 2 months and won't return to the road till later this year. The show airs this evening at 10 p.m. Eastern Time and pairs the trio with Stevie Nicks, a member of Fleetwood Mac, a group Lady Antebellum is often compared to because of its use of harmony. The singers will tackle songs from the catalogs of each, including Rhiannon, Stop Dragging My Heart Around, and Need You Now. Pretty cool.
At the edge of the heliosphere, you wouldn't know by looking whether you left the cradle of humanity behind and floated out into interstellar space, but you would just see unfathomably empty space no matter which side of the invisible line you were on. But scientists now have strong evidence that NASA's Voyager 1 probe has crossed that important border, making history as the first human-made object to leave the heliosphere. And for those who don't know, and I'm one who didn't, had to look it up, it is the magnetic boundary that separates the solar system's sun, planets, and solar wind from the rest of the galaxy.
I never knew that.
Me either. In leaving the heliosphere and setting sail on the cosmic seas between the stars, Voyager has joined other historic journeys of exploration, the first circumnavigation of the Earth, the first steps on the moon, according to Ed Stone, chief scientist of the Voyager mission. That's the kind of event this is as we leave behind our solar bubble. A new study in the journal Science suggests that the probe entered the interstellar medium August 25th of 2012.
Wow.
You may have heard other reports that Voyage 1 has made the historic crossing before, but yesterday was the first time NASA announced and confirmed it. Voyager 1 becoming the first human-made object to leave the solar system.
Mm-hmm. With rain still falling and the flood threat still real, authorities called on thousands more people in the inundated city of Boulder and a mountain hamlet to evacuate as nearby creeks rose to dangerous levels. The late-night reports from Boulder and the village of El Dorado Springs came as rescuers struggled to reach dozens of people cut off by flooding in Colorado mountain communities, while residents in the Denver area and other downstream communities were warned to stay off flooded streets. The towns of Lyons, Jamestown, and others in the Rocky Mountain foothills have been isolated by flooding and without power or telephone since rain hanging over the region all week intensified late Wednesday and early Thursday. At least 3 people were killed and another was missing, and numerous people were forced to seek shelter up and down Colorado's populated Front Range. Late yesterday evening, Boulder City officials said they sent a notice to head to higher ground to about 4,000 people living along Boulder Creek around the mouth of Boulder Canyon after 11 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. This is according to a report that is in the Boulder's Daily Camera News.
Did you happen to see any of the video footage of the rescues of some of those people?
Oh, no, I did not.
There was one, it was a car upside down in floodwaters. Actually, it was on its side in floodwaters, and they had some. No, I take that back. It was upside down in floodwaters. There were cables attached to it from the rescue truck off the side, and it was pulling the car upright. And when it did, there was a man in the car, still alive, and they either opened or broke the window. It looked like in the back seat, and they handed him a life jacket.
Oh.
And then something slipped, and the car went back under the water, and this time with the window open.
Oh my God!
And so I'm assuming when the window was closed, it was airtight, and he had a little bubble to breathe. Now he's underwater, and you can see the guys frantically trying to get the cable to pull the car back out of the water, which they did.
Oh, thank
The rescue
God.
workers got out of their raft. They were in a raft that was also secured by cable, so it wouldn't be rushed down with the water. The rescue workers, this is how rescue workers are so amazing, got out of the rescue raft, opened the car door, got the man out. Unbelievable.
Oh my God! Thank you, God.
All right, next story out of India, out of the news agency Reuters. All 4 Indian men convicted of raping and murdering a 23-year-old woman in New Delhi were sentenced to death this morning. A decision, the judge says, sends a message to society that there can be no tolerance for such a savage crime. Cheers went up from a crowd outside of the Delhi court when lawyers rushed out to announce the sentence handed down for last December's assault, which triggered furious protest across India and rare national debate about violence against women. This has shocked the collective conscience of society, Judge Yogesh Khanna said, condemning the men to death by hanging. In these times when crime against women is on the rise, courts cannot turn a blind eye towards such gruesome crime. There cannot be any tolerance. This crime in every way falls within the rarest of rare category, warranting a death sentence. The sentencing was one of the biggest tests in years of India's paradoxical attitude towards the death penalty. The country's judges hand down, on average, 130 death sentences every year, but India has executed only 3 people in the past 17 years.
Oh, well, thank God they're doing that. Here's a lighter story. Customers cruising United Airlines website for tickets on Thursday, yesterday afternoon, got a pleasant surprise. Tickets were being sold on the United Airlines website for $0 to $10. Word quickly spread around the internet, and savvy buyers scooped up untold numbers of the dream tickets before United spotted the error and shut down the system for maintenance. There's no word yet if the airline will honor the tickets sold at mistaken fares. This is according to CNN.
Wow. And if you got one of those tickets and they didn't honor it, you just behave.
Exactly.
Just be, I mean,
you know, people know that's not the right price.
And a Central Ohio woman, this is from the Associated Press, a Central Ohio woman faked a cancer diagnosis for her 4-year-old son and shaved his head in a scheme that convinced him and others that he was dying and bilked people out of donations, according to authorities. Court records allege the boy was taken to a hospital for symptoms such as seizures. He underwent at least 20 blood tests, more than 150 hours of inpatient monitoring and other testing that found no problems, according to the records. His mother, Emily Crino of Utica, Ohio, is charged with 1 felony count of child endangerment. A prosecutor would not discuss the possibility of more charges. The Advocate newspaper in Newark reported that Crino, who is 31 years old, did not comment in court Wednesday, as her bond was set at $50,000, and she was ordered to have no unsupervised contact with her son. Can you imagine doing something like that?
Oh my God.
Unbelievable.
Absolutely.
All right,
disgusting.
we have to wrap it up. That is the segment that we call News Bites. We bring it to you so that you can tune into the radio each day as you're on your way to work, on your way to school, and catch up on the biggest stories happening in the world right now. We summarize them so we can do as many as possible. We keep as much information in them so you get the gist of the story. Go online, check them out further if you want to know more about these stories. We do it so we can catch up on the news. We put the news back in News Talk.
Yep.
And if you'd like to sponsor that segment you just heard, or any segment here on WOCA, call WOCA at 732-8000. Speak to one of our sales executives. Sit across the desk from them. That's even better. Come into the studios. We're at the new, beautiful studios here at the Paddock Mall. The highest visibility of any radio station in Ocala. Exactly. We'll take a little break and be right back.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala. ABC News Now. I'm Karen Chase. Roaring floodwaters are rushing down the mountains into Boulder, Colorado with increasing speed, and continuing rain is swelling streams and rivers further. President Obama has declared an emergency, freeing up fast federal assistance. New Jersey Governor Chris Christie says he has no clue what started the fire that gutted blocks of the newly rebuilt boardwalk in Seaside Park, setting Superstorm Sandy victims back to square one. He has pledged they will recover. Fast food is getting even faster for McDonald's customers. The company is testing a mobile app that would let them pay with a swipe of their smartphones, just like Starbucks and Target and several other retailers. Cookies and milk may seem like a relatively innocent guilty pleasure for kids, but a Florida pediatrician says they're a bad idea before bed. The combination of dairy and sugar can cause stomach churning and acid reflux that can lead to cold-like symptoms, including sore throats and runny noses. Nicole Kidman was knocked to the ground by a photographer on a bicycle in New York City as she left her hotel. Police are calling it an accident so far. This is ABC News.
Geico presents a man who just saved on his motorcycle insurance.
Name's Mark, and this here beastly hog is Princess. Easy, Princess. Slow your roll. So how does this chopper cowboy save on motorcycle insurance, you ask? Easy. I just strapped on my savings chaps called Geico and bam! I'm saving so much, my princess, well, she gets treated like a queen.
Geico Motorcycle. See how much you could save.
At Advance Auto Parts, we know that batteries eventually give up, but we never do. Not when it comes to service. Need a new battery? At Advance, we'll install an Autocraft battery for you. Free! You shouldn't have to give up any more of your hard-earned cash for great service. There, I said give up, but just to make a point. Give up. At Advance? Ha! Never. Fast, free battery installation, only at Advance Auto Parts. With purchase on most vehicles, see store for details.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Life jackets save lives. We're at Florida. Times of clouds and sunshine today. There'll be a thunderstorm around, especially during the afternoon and evening hours. Much of the day rain-free, the high 88 to 92. Partly cloudy skies tonight, lows 69 to 73. For tomorrow and Sunday, a blend of sun and clouds each day with a thunderstorm or two in the area each day, mainly during the afternoon hours over the interior. High both days between 89 and 93. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Hey, I'm Gary.
And I'm Eric. Did you know that Red Eye Radio is on WOCA, the